all sorts of fireworks on Capitol Hill. Freedom Caucus Chairman Congressman Mark Meadows says subpoenas are coming within days for members of the Justice Department involved in the Russia witch hunt. Department of Justice whistleblowers and DOJ officials who've stonewalled congressional document requests are among those being called to testify before Congress. Joining us tonight, Judicial Watch President Tom Fitton, and you have to be feeling pretty good, Tom, to know that Congressman Meadows says there will now be subpoenas.
Well, it's a positive step forward. It's been well over a year of obstruction and stonewalling by this Justice Department. And not only that, they've been attacking congressional oversight. There's credible stories out there.
I would have a basket full if I were Speaker Ryan. If I were running one of the intelligence committees, judiciary committees, one of the oversight committees, I'd have a basket full of subpoenas for Rod Rosenstein himself. This is outrageous what has happened, and it's taken, and I want to just congratulate Mark Meadows when he put his face right in front of the Speaker and told him he's had it. I have to tell you, I applauded. Meadows is a man of high integrity and principle, and to put up with this Speaker for this long without response, all I can say is congratulations to the folks in North Carolina he represents, because this is the stuff that you want to see more of in Congress.
Well, you know, and it shows you that you need leadership, not just from the leadership. If Congress is to be effective, you need folks like Mark Meadows, who aren't part of the leadership crowd necessarily, but who represent the interests of the American people, certainly in areas of oversight and the rule of law here. It's these backbenchers, more or less, in the House that have been driving this. Devin Nunes, to his credit, has taken the lead here. But I tell you, it's despite the leadership in the House that any of this is getting done, and it's only the unremitting pressure of Meadows, Jordan, DeSantis, people like Nunes, that Ryan is allowing any of this to go forward.
Right. And Matt Gaetz.
Yeah,
you know,
Gaetz, yeah.
Amongst these folks, there is the general view, if unexpressed publicly, that something has to be done here, and they cannot come together because they have a sellout to all of the business interests, to the establishment, to the globalist elites on the part of their Speaker, and they're going into the midterms with this guy, it appears right now. If they don't have the guts to get rid of him, they're consigning themselves to the abyss electorally.
Well, there's this big crowd in Washington, D.C., the political elites of both parties, who want mass amnesty, and they'll take it any way they'll get it. They'll create
crisis. Well, the hell with it, and the hell with it.
And you know, and I have a simple take on all this. The best immigration reform is to enforce the law on the books.
Yeah.
It's going to stop the flows of the families coming north. You can pressure Mexico to stop it from happening. You take care of those who are already here within the law, but not much needs to be done.
You can't do anything. Let me say this too, Tom, and let me interrupt you on this, because I understand what you're saying, enforce the law. But here is the basic fundamental logic that's absolutely requisite and undeniable. You cannot reform, change, or alter, or enforce immigration law if you do not control the border. It's that straightforward. And ipso facto, control the damn border, right?
That's exactly right. If I were the president, I would deploy the military to the border to secure the border immediately, given the national security and humanitarian and criminal threat we face from the border. Yeah. You'd not only be protecting the American people, but you'd be protecting the illegal aliens who are being trafficked through this border region that is completely wide open in many areas.
And it's time to let the Mexican government know that they're bringing thousands of unaccompanied minors from their southern border, then giving them effectively escort 2,000 miles to the northern border with this country, and dumping those young people on our doorstep and creating havoc. And by the way, that doesn't include $60 billion worth of illegal drugs, methamphetamines, heroin, cocaine, marijuana that are coming across that border, coming from Mexico every year. And to think there's a discussion going on Capitol Hill and these fools are trying to represent the Chamber of Commerce interest. It is sickening to watch these gutless frauds even discuss the issues that are of such paramount importance to this entire country.
It's going to get worse. The view from the South is that there's chaos in the United States. Congress is pushing to undermine the rule of law. The media is pushing to undermine the rule of law. And that translates as, we got to get across the border and take advantage because they will never hold us in these circumstances. Any discussion of amnesty increases illegal immigration, and the president needs to stand fast and enforce the rule of law. It's why he was put in office, and it's fundamental to protecting the United States and its sovereignty.
You know, and the other thing is this president has already created a legacy. He's already a historic president. He is the only person with anything to lose in not abiding by his promises to the American people and to his base, to his voters, because no one expects any of those other folks on Capitol Hill to keep a single promise that they've ever made. I doubt they even remember what they promised their voters, with a few exceptions, and we just mentioned a half a dozen of them. There are a few more, but not many.
Well, there's an opportunity to get a quick, small bill in that allows the families to be detained together, upholding the rule of law, while taking care of children who are needlessly put in harm's way by both their parents and the amnesty crowd. This can be done quickly if the Republican leadership takes a hold of it and moves it forward.
I would say the odds of that happening are so remote.
But we need to demand action. We just can't let this continue.
Yeah,
it's a nightmare.
Well, the nightmare can end as soon as we control our border.
That's right.
That's this, you know, all of this stuff, piecemeal and comprehensive, you call it what you want. The fact is that until we have the guts to defend our own border, the courage and the principle and the commitment to the values of this nation and to the integrity of this constitutional republic and our own society, we are lost. And it's that straightforward. Tom Fitton, great to have you with us. We'll take up the deep state later. We got troubles boiling on the front burner right now.
I hear you.
Thanks so much. Tom Fitton.
You're welcome.
And we have breaking news now. Freedom Caucus Chair Mark Meadows has uncovered 2 new texts that implicate the Obama White House in the initial steps of the Trump campaign investigation. Meadows asking Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein why the October 2016 text between FBI Attorney Lisa Page and former FBI Deputy Director Andrew McCabe were not turned over to Congress as requested, and whether the texts are being intentionally withheld from lawmakers. Well, joining me now to help shed some light on all of this, Congressman Matt Gaetz. He serves on a number of very important committees, including Judiciary, Budget, and Armed Services. Congressman, great to have you with us. Let's start with the Meadows revelation in this letter to the Department of Justice. What is going on here? It's just one after another, and the question has to be asked: Are you people at Justice withholding information? Obviously they are.
Yeah, Lou, that question is affirmatively answered, that the Justice Department has lacked sufficient production, and they've not been sufficiently forthcoming when it comes to messages. You'll recall that there were text messages between Peter Strzok and Lisa Page regarding Strzok's personal friendship with a FISA judge. Those were not national security sensitive, and yet they were redacted and not provided to Congress. Also, there was the famous text message, infamous I should say, where Strzok says, no, he won't, we'll stop him, regarding the Trump presidency. That was not originally produced by the Department of Justice. So this is now a pattern. The Department of Justice is not giving us the information that we're requesting in a timely fashion. When we do get a trickling of information, it's far too heavily redacted, and there have to be consequences as a result.
Well, you know, we've been hearing that. Congressman, you and I both know it. We've heard threats. We've heard them from Nunes. We've heard them from, you know, various people in Congress. And it all comes to nothing. Why should anyone at the Department of Justice or FBI sweat you guys at all?
You know, we have got to, I think, get more people on the Republican side in Congress enthusiastic about our oversight responsibilities. I mean, the Deputy Attorney General, Rod Rosenstein, said that Congress has no constitutional authority, to conduct oversight.
He says you guys are all extortionists. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, and so, I mean, Lou, like, we need a critical mass of Republicans to favor the sanctions, the contempt, and potentially the impeachment of Rod Rosenstein if we don't see the Justice Department complying with our oversight demands. I mean, look, at the end of the day, Lou, it's either elected people or it's unelected people who make the final call. And if unelected people get to make the final decisions regarding their own oversight, we have eroded this republic, and I don't think we should stand for it.
Well, I agree with you. I don't think, as you well know, I don't think we should stand for it at all, not another minute, not another second. But the fact is, unelected people, as you call them, I call them the deep state, are running all over you guys. The Department of Justice is running you. The FBI is running you, stalling you, for absolutely frustrating you guys at every turn. And by the way, they worked out a special counsel deal, a witch hunt. First, 11 months of investigation by the FBI into collusion with the Russians, between the Trump campaign and the Russians, and then a special counsel, just to add a little zest to it all, that is actually running, right now, running every effort to subvert this president. I mean, we're not talking rhetorically.
I agree with you.
These are unelected folks running the country right now.
I agree with your criticism. It is a fair one. But I would add that our oversight work in the Congress has resulted in a lot of firings, terminations, demotions. You look, Comey's gone, McCabe gone, Page and Strzok gone, Rubicki, who was the chief of staff at the FBI, gone, James Baker, the leaker, gone.
Am I going to hear you cheer for Christopher Wray, the president's choice to succeed him? Because he looks every bit as recalcitrant and uncooperative as James Comey. He isn't quite as cute and precious in his testimony, but he's every bit as smug and smirking.
I would say that Christopher Wray has got an opportunity to do the right thing. I would hope that he would seize it. To date, there have been things he's done that I've been in agreement with regarding, standing up for the rank and file at the FBI, but there is no defense for the actions of Strzok and Page and Comey and McCabe, and I would hope that Christopher Wray would want to get to the bottom of this as President Trump's pick to lead the FBI. We need more out of him. Your criticism is a fair one, and I'm trying to encourage him to do the right thing.
Well, good for you. And I want to turn, if we may, to all of the criticism that now is focused on the President of the United States. He apparently didn't meet the expectations of the Dems, the left-wing national media, rhinos, and conservatives. I'm trying to figure out how he'll ever be able to withstand such a calamity as not meeting the expectations of those fine Americans.
Well, President Trump has a unique style, and sometimes the game you're watching is not always the game being played. You'll remember in North Korea, he was calling Kim Jong-un Little Rocket Man, while at the same time he was establishing a platform for diplomacy and negotiation, and now it's almost a year since we've had the last nuclear test in North Korea. And so here, you may have witnessed the president being perhaps a little lighter than we would have expected on Putin publicly, but they were behind closed doors for a far longer period of time than they were in front of the cameras. The president and Putin both said that the president raised the issue of election meddling. It is my belief that the Russians did meddle in our elections and in elections all over the world. I also think that this country has an unfortunate past, as recently as the Obama administration, meddling in elections in Israel, in the Balkans, in coordination with George Soros groups. And so, I think we can all recognize that none of us are virgins here. The United States and Russia have both meddled in elections, and I think that neither should do that going forward. And we ought to hold both governments accountable whenever that occurs.
Well, you know what I think? Everybody ought to be a grown-up, and also they should have triple-digit IQs. Anyone who thinks that the Obama administration wasn't meddling in it, by our count, about 7 elections, and that's directly with the One Voice group over the course of years, and diverting taxpayer money to fund an outcome that was decidedly not in the national interest, but in the interest of an Obama White House. I mean, where was the outcry? Where was the outrage? Where was the wringing of hands and just self-righteous nonsense that is emanating from all of those quarters? And I'm talking about from left to right, the national left-wing media, of course, and not one of them smart enough to understand what was going on in elementary civics, let alone geopolitics in 2018.
Well, and as is typical, Lou, the left has missed the big story here on non-proliferation of nuclear weapons. In Iran and in North Korea, Russia can be very helpful at bringing pressure to bear so that we don't see widespread proliferation of weapons of mass destruction, and the media doesn't want to talk about that at all. They just want to criticize the president instead of focusing on the anti-terrorism and the non-proliferation efforts that I think were very productive today.